It's the Big Fat American Rock Show. I'm Zach Martin, along with my special friend, Ted Knapp. He's a very special guy who is with Rock Our Vets. And this organization is really special. For anybody listening, what does Rock Our Vets specialize in?
Well, I guess it's just taking care of our veterans in need. Whether it's food, clothing, shelter for a specific person or family, whether it's laptops provided going back to school,
right?
Whatever their need is. I've paid for gas bills in the winter to keep them with heat, electric bills so they can use their air conditioners in the summer. Our veterans shouldn't have to be going through the situations they're in. And Rock Our Vets is just here to support them in any way we can.
I really like the idea of helping some of the veterans get their computers as they go back to school. You also mentioned that you will help the families of fallen soldiers and sailors and Marines. I was talking about that one girl who lost her dad in Afghanistan, and she's in college, and I know she needs a printer. So you do that kind of stuff as well?
We have a Gold Star Children's Scholarship Foundation. A Gold Star is when you lose your life in the war, you are a Gold Star.
Right.
So any of their family in need, we support. However, we specialize with a scholarship program for their children going back to school. The benefit packages they get take care of their tuition, takes care of their books and all that stuff. However, when they get to their dorms, they're going to need a microwave, a computer desk, a printer, something that their parents would have gotten them. Rock Our Vets steps in and says, here. And it's a real simple process. It's nothing that no writing essays or anything like that. You let me know that this is what you need.
And you make it happen. You're like everybody's crazy
uncle.
There's
no red tape.
Crazy Uncle Teddy. He'll make it happen. Can you talk about some of the artists that are helping out Rock Our Vets?
Okay. Well, Dave Mason of Traffic and of Solo Career is the co-founder of Rock Our Vets. So him and I have been doing this together for 3 years. However, we've been working nonprofits for veterans for about 15 years. We went on our own about 3 years ago, and Rock Our Vets is doing incredible work. We have other veterans that support us. Vanilla Fudge members, Vinnie Martell, Mark Stein are big supporters. Mark Farner, Grand Funk Railroad, Rick Derringer, all have done plenty of things for helping us raise money and step up all the time. The list goes on. There's Kip Winger and Reb Beach from Winger and Whitesnake fame. Again, I ask them for favors. They'll help me out with, autographed material to help raise money. We do all kinds of fundraisers. And that's how Rock Our Vets is supported, by the rock and roll community supporting our vets.
That's great.
Hence the name Rock
Our Vets. And what people can do is if they go to a Dave Mason show, you're on the premises and you're on the premise and you have the various autographed rock memorabilia.
I do carry a lot of the rock memorabilia to the Dave shows, mostly on the East Coast, anywhere from New England all the way down to Florida. I don't get out to the West Coast too often, but I do tour with Dave on the East Coast and a lot of the other bands as well.
Well, I would imagine that it's much more fun for you to stay on the East Coast because here in the East we have places like White Castles and, Murder Burgers and Belly Bombers. And over there they have In-N-Out Burgers, which are nice, but there's nothing that compares to White Castle. And then as you go down south, you have Golden Corral. Like I would say that that's probably one of the better buffets that I know a lot of military guys like to visit on a regular basis.
The White Castles is definitely a piece of home for me.
So basically, if you go out and have a few with your buddies, you go to White Castle?
Yeah, that's usually the last stop of the night.
That's good. Yeah. I think White Castle should, maybe donate to the cause.
I would love to hear from them.
Maybe each week donate a case that we crave, one for you and one for me.
There we go.
And we'll say, hey, we just had some White Castles.
We could take them and hand them out
to people in the street.
Vets in need.
Vets in need.
We could
people
feed
in
them
the street.
with a craving case.
That's right. It's good stuff. All kidding aside. Basically, on East. Now, coming up, I think in the springtime of 2019, you're going to be doing a Moody Blues sort of cruise?
Yeah, I think it's February. It's so many bands. It's Moody Blues, Zombies, Dave Mason, Vanilla Fudge, Rick Derringer, Poco. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, that's
Al
really
Stewart.
cool. Yeah.
And all those people have, over the years, done stuff to support what Dave and I are out there doing.
Really good guys. The music industry has changed over the years. We were talking about that earlier, and it's quite astounding what some of the artists have to go through just to make ends meet. Seriously, everybody thinks they're multimillionaires, but if they were multimillionaires and had it so good, they wouldn't be touring all the time unless they really wanted to. And I think you would see less touring from these guys. They're working hard.
They are out there working hard.
Yeah, they're working their butts off.
Touring is not like what it used to be.
No,
It's
not at all.
not easy traveling anymore.
No.
It's not
especially,
like it was.
when you're our age, you don't feel like,
What I hear a lot.
I don't like schlepping.
What I hear a lot from them is they don't get paid to play. They get paid to get show to show. That's the work. Playing on stage is still fun.
Yeah.
It's just
I get what you're saying. Yeah. What was your most memorable concert that you've ever been to? It could be any time of your life. Maybe the first concert you ever went to, the most memorable, whatever.
It was actually a Dave Mason and Jim Capaldi from Traffic show at the Bottom Line, where I had a table out front for some special guests of mine, and George Harrison came to the show and needed somewhere to sit. He needed somewhere to sit, so I had 2 open seats at my table. I figured him and his wife could just sit there and join us. So I got to watch Traffic
with George Harrison. And his wife.
Yeah, and that was amazing.
Oh, wow. Who picked up the check?
I don't think there was one.
No?
I think the bottom line.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to stay away from that table.
Yeah.
Wow, man. What did you talk about with George Harrison? Anything at all? You had to bring up something.
There were some things. He was asking me questions about what Dave was using and playing and what Jim was. And I just looked at him at one point. I go, tell me something. Just enlighten me with something.
I know what happened. I know what happened. You turn into Tommy Boy and you go, remember the time that you did the concert for Bangladesh? That was awesome.
I felt it inside, but I held it together on the outside.
I don't think I could.
It was nice. That was one of the most memorable.
I would never forget.
About 3 or 4 of those stories.
Sitting with George Harrison for a show and then him picking your brain.
Yeah, it was
That's
odd.
I think that beats any story that I have, and I've got some good ones.
Yeah,
like the time I told Paul McCartney he shouldn't get married again. It could cost him $500 million. I was right. Met Ringo. I met Yoko. I was over at John Lennon's apartment, over the Dakotas. So, but I can't say that. Boy, wow. I think sitting with George Harrison to watch a show, and then having the Bottom Line pick up the check. You're just like in the stratosphere of rock experiences.
Yeah,
so there's nothing I can even like. All right, let's go with the second best.
The second best was.
I'll kill you if it's another one of these stories.
It was a photo opportunity backstage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Was Kid Rock, Jackson Browne, Keith Richards, Steve Winwood, Jim Capaldi, Dave Mason, and me, and. Someone
Who's
said,
that? It's my younger brother.
Someone asked me, could you please step out of the picture? And Jim Capaldi turned to him and says, we're all with him.
That's
and I just
nice.
was like, oh.
That's
really
nice.
They took the picture, and I was edited out because I was on the end, but I did see the picture get published.
Oh, that's nice. All right, that's cool. So
that was kind of
You
unique.
have a copy of the picture with you in it.
I do.
Good, because then you can make bets with people that you were there. So I always told my brother, anytime I brought him backstage, and got a picture with maybe Bon Jovi. I said, you go back to school, and you tell all the girls that you met John Bon Jovi, and they're not going to believe you. And then you start making bets. I'll bet you 100 here, 20 here. How do you prove it? Next day, go, I'm going to prove it to you. Bring in the photo, start collecting. That's what I would do.
Well,
what was your first concert?
My first concert was it was I hate to say it was a Dave Mason concert.
Dude,
but I was out in my backyard.
Wait a minute. Dave Mason played in your backyard?
No, I was in my backyard listening to Kiss. And my friend who lived there leaned out his window and he said, would you just come in the house? I want to play some real music for you. And I was like, Kiss was my all, real music. And I went and he played me Alone Together by Dave Mason. And I listened to the album probably 3 times before I even left his apartment. And he said that Dave was playing, and I was young, so I couldn't even go to a show. But he took me to an outdoor Dave Mason concert where I walked backstage into the dressing room and met all the band and met Dave for the first time. I think I was 13 years old.
Oh, that's really cool. And where was it? Was it PNC?
It was
Garden State Arts Center?
Either like a Great Adventure or something in Sayreville.
Okay. Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
But it was just a very. I just went back and they stopped me. My parents are back there. Who's going to stop a 13-year-old kid in 1970s?
No.
They just go ahead back. And I went and finally, after about the fourth show, because I kept doing it.
Yeah.
Dave looked over and he goes, "Who are you?" And I told him, and he's like, "Okay." And we kind of grew on each other over the years. I mean, it wasn't an instant friendship.
You kind of look a little bit like Dave Mason.
Well, back then I didn't.
Yeah.
I had, powder blue mohawk.
But you thought to yourself, when I get older, I'm going to go bald and just look a little bit like Dave. Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of you live with the monkeys long enough, you learn.
That's right.
Acting and looking like them.
It's interesting that you said Kiss. Do you remember the album? Was it Hotter Than Hell?
It was Hotter Than Hell.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So you're in my age group, and that's what we liked back then. Patrick Van Buren, who's got his solo album out.
Right.
Maybe you've heard of him.
I did. I actually heard of it.
Really a talented guy. He was given a choice as a kid between taking home Hotter Than Hell by Kiss or the Annie soundtrack, and he took the Annie soundtrack.
Yeah, that happened.
True story. He's really into show tunes, and he likes Liza Minnelli records. I don't know what's going on with Patrick, but there's us.
Sounds like another Pete Best story,
Yep. Oh, I met him. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad that I got to meet you. I'm glad you're helping our veterans out. It's a really great thing that you're doing, Rock Our Vets, and you can go to, what's the name of the website?
The website is rockourvets.org.
And before we go any further, I gotta talk about this great album. All right, who pilfered it? I got it. Ted, this is my favorite live album. I mean, I've heard a lot of live albums over the years, and they're all like, Hotter Than Hell's a good live album from Kiss.
It was good.
All right?
Doesn't
But
compare.
this one, the sound quality on this and the vocals and everything, it was recorded in a rather intimate setting, a venue in North Carolina. Were you there for that?
I wasn't at that event, but I was on that tour. I did about a dozen of those shows with them.
Okay, so what do you do when you go on tour with Dave?
I set up in the lobby, the Rock On Vet stuff, and I just do awareness to the audience that's coming in about what we are, what we're doing. And Dave will sign a guitar, Steve signs guitars, and we auction them off at the show.
Wow, Steve looks like he uses some sort of steel guitar from this picture, right? One of those throwback guitars. You know what I'm talking about? What is that?
It's a Fender.
Okay.
The
graphics are throwing me off.
That's what it is.
All right, I got you.
It's got like a tiger print on it.
Steve Cropper, he is more well known than people think. Why don't you tell us who he played guitar for?
Steve was house musician for Stax Records. I mean,
right. That Stax Records is like hot
co-wrote
stuff.
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I mean, Blues Brothers movie. I mean, Play It Steve. That's Steve. Knock on Wood. I mean, some of these songs that you hear every day, you're like, oh, that was Steve Cropper.
Was Steve with Booker T and the MGs?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Green Onions.
How about that? See?
There you go.
I'm not as dumb as I look. Yeah. Green Onions, that's a good one. Now, Dave, of course, is with Steve Cropper. How did they get together? Do you know the story behind that?
I do not know. I know. I do know that I think in Hawaii. They ran into each other in Hawaii.
They were hanging out with Graham Nash's Kona Coffee Farm, and then they ran into
got a little place
Mick
over
Fleetwood's
there.
over there.
I think that's all part of that
hanging
same
out.
old group. And
I noticed they never invite me to any of their parties on the Big Island when they're all hanging out.
My phone ain't ringing either.
All of a sudden, they lose my number. So it's Dave Mason, Steve Cropper, Rock and Soul Review, featuring Gretchen Rhodes. Now,
amazing.
Tell us a little bit about Gretchen.
I only met her, with Dave, and I have not seen Dave have any background vocal people with them in years. And for him to bring someone out, she had to be special, and she was amazing. I've seen her. She opens up the show sometimes with Dave's band, and she'll go out and she'll do the front singing.
Oh, that's great.
And she's absolutely amazing. That's best I could say.
Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, if David ever told you this, but Dave Mason, he invented the solo career. He was the first one to go solo. He had no choice because they broke up, but he invented that. Went out and he started that whole "I'm going to be a solo artist" thing. Did you know that?
I didn't know he
just
that
made
was
that
the
up.
First, did you?
Yeah. Well, I think he's one of the first.
I
though.
bought into it.
No, I often joke to even David. He invented the solo career. Look at the history. I mean, I can't think of too many people that were in a major band that went out on their own. Dave Mason did. And then this was recorded at the Jones Saloon Studios in West Jefferson, North Carolina. It's pretty impressive. 150 people got to see him play. Now, I will be braggadocious about one thing, how you have your first experience and then the George Harrison thing. I did get to watch the Zombies do their basically their sound check, and I was the only person in the room. So I'm sitting in the front row, like, oh, she's not there, and he's just doing the, Rod Argent's doing his thing. There I am.
There you go.
Watching Rod do his thing, playing on his keyboards, all by myself.
You never forget those.
No, you don't. And I've gone to some really good shows, but this one in particular, you got to see Dave Mason, Steve Cropper, Rock and Soul Review featuring Gretchen Rhodes in concert. Dave always puts on a great show. And what I like about Dave is he sounds just the way he does on the studio versions. There's not too many people that can pull that off, And the effect on his microphone doesn't augment, doesn't how can I say, make up for any weakness. His raw vocals are just perfect.
His voice gotten stronger and better
over the years.
And his playing too.
Go figure.
I think right now he's at the prime. It's crazy, but
I mean, he makes his age the new 30s.
There you go.
I'm not even going to say what his age is.
His
but
quote is, "Rock and roll is not an age; it's an attitude."
Yeah, he's right about that. So if you're listening, trust me on this one. If you want to listen to a great live album for real, Dave Mason and Steve Cropper, Rock and Soul Review. On occasion, we will play tracks on the Big Fat American Rock Show. And as you probably are, as I told you, not so much anymore on the stream as the way things looking, but we're going to create a new stream with Rock Our Vets.
There you go.